So most cinemas are widescreen, and they are always a lot wider than they are higher. And that is why RED has chosen to incorporate a wide sensor, which is basically has the top and bottom cropped off. And as you can see in this picture, a standard full frame sensor that you'll find in, for example, a Sony A7S III or a Panasonic S1H is actually higher than a V Raptor RED 8K V Raptor sensor. It's not wider, but it is higher. Now if we go up one from this again, wider and higher, we get the very large ARRI 65 sensor. So that is 3 ARRI ALEV sensors stacked vertically side by side, and that is what gets you the ARRI 65 sensor, which is, I believe, 3 2K sensors for a total of about 6K. So ARRI 65 is roughly 6.5K resolution. Now, when we go up from there, we can then go higher again with a medium format. And there's currently 2 kinds of medium format. Why they're called the same thing is beyond me. But in the Fujifilm GFX 50s and 100s, you have a medium format sensor, which is 43, as you can see here, the dimensions, and it is bigger than the ARRI 65 vertically. So if you had an anamorphic lens, you could actually get a bigger image than an ARRI 65. So a Fujifilm shoots 4K and is about $10,000. ARRI 65, well, I think it's beyond $100,000 for one of those cameras. So you're only looking at rental for that. So if you had an anamorphic lens on one of these medium format Fujifilm sensors, you could actually have a bigger image than ARRI 65. And now if we go up one more to a Hassleblad medium format, we can see it is both much higher and also about just as wide as the ARRI 65. So in theory, a Hassleblad sensor is actually superior to the ARRI 65 just in image sensor size. And then finally we have IMAX, which is taller and wider than the medium format sensor. And you can see just how much bigger the IMAX image size is than the ARRI 65. So commonly when you see IMAX films, the shots are obviously often interspersed with ARRI 65 footage and also 35mm footage. And you'll see in movies like Interstellar and basically any Christopher Nolan movie, he uses 35mm film for dialogue scenes, and then for shots where no audio recording is required, he uses IMAX. And you can see just how much bigger IMAX is than 35mm film. And you can really tell if you have a close-up monitor, the difference between these two images is night and day. And another thing to mention is when IMAX films are released in full IMAX mode, full IMAX format, you don't actually get the full square sort of aspect ratio, but you do get a full 16:9 aspect ratio. And when they switch to the full frame aspect ratio, you're actually not getting a full 16:9 ratio. You're only getting a kind of a wide screen with the black bars top and bottom. So given that you can't actually always have IMAX if you want to be recording audio without dubbing the audio, I think these medium format sensors are really a happy medium that should really start getting investigated as film video formats. The Fujifilm GFX 50s and 100s shoot 4K video with this size. I would like to see a camera using the Hassleblad medium format size, since that sensor exists, and I'm not sure who makes it. So a camera with this medium format size, which has obviously it's not going to be 8K, because 8K is going to be, it's going to be this full frame aspect ratio, so it's going to be more like 10 or 12K resolution sensor. If you could have a sensor that big that shoots at least 24 frames per second, all of these other formats, IMAX, ARRI 65, RED, all of that would be superseded by having just one really large sensor, because you're able to use anamorphic lenses to begin with. You get extremely sharp, clear images because the sensor is so large and so high resolution. You have none of the drawbacks of shooting with film like IMAX, such as the sound the camera makes and the heavy bulkiness. And keep in mind, this Fujifilm and Hassleblad sensor cameras are mirrorless and are tiny enclosures compared with IMAX and the ARRI 65. So overall, the film industry needs to definitely start getting these medium format sensors happening in 8K and higher resolution.